taxation, a quiet abrasion, with our voices in unison, against the imposition. We stand, we demand, it's our solemn mission. Will you hear my plea? If I express my Lord in funds here in the state's grip, I know they've started to sink their hands in my life feet. Range of things hold, just my dead sink. Is there's just a thing's my creed. Does the scripture shine on and let it right to me? It's our solemn mission. Taxation, a cruel invasion, liberty suffocation, a quiet abrasion, with our voices in unison, against the imposition. We stand, we demand, it's our solemn mission. Will you hear my plea? If I express my Lord in funds here in the state's grip, I know they've started to sink their hands in my life feet. Range of things hold.
Rise and freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. Happy Monday. No, I know it's not a happy Monday. It's April 15th, tax day. And as we all know, today is the worst day of days for libertarians. We've all suffered to get to this point today. Have you mailed your check yet? Have you made your decision for Christ? God is government these days, after all. He takes everything that we have. We are like Job in the Bible. We suffer so that others may eat, may live. When we were in Washington, D.C. this last weekend, me and my wife, we saw plenty of people standing outside the homeless shelter with their Obama phones. Don't you just sometimes want to walk up and be like, you're welcome. You're welcome. Don't you just want to kind of see people, or maybe like one of those big, rich corporate CEO types who built their business off of subsidies. The only reason that they're able to be in business today is because of people like you and I paying our taxes. You're welcome. Big corporate farms, corporate farmers and stuff who take these giant subsidies. You're welcome. Right? Or maybe they own like a tobacco plantation and they get paid not to grow tobacco. You're welcome. Right? Today should be the day that all of us net taxpayers should walk around seeing people who are enjoying the fruits of our labor and say, you're welcome. You're welcome. What do you say? Should we all be saying you're welcome? You're welcome. Net taxpayers. Only net taxpayers should vote. Don't you think so? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Good morning. Good morning. All right. We've got a lot to talk about this morning. Unleashed, the dogs of war. Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer will join us live this morning to talk about escalating tensions in the Middle East between Israel and Iran, a series of provocations which resulted in this weekend's attack, a drone swarm released from Iran to Israel, 97% of which was shot down by American and Israeli joint forces working together to prevent the attack from causing a massive loss of life. The big question, of course, now, what is next? We're going to talk to Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer this morning, aka Spooky, at 7:30 a.m. Central Time. He'll get us filled in on all the details of what could be coming down the pike and what that could mean for the United States. At 8 a.m. Central Time today, we're going to hear, unfortunately, John Miltimore wasn't able to be out today, but we've got a great replacement. Jeremy Cady is going to join us live on set. Jeremy Cady will join us this morning at 8 a.m. Central. He is the head of Americans for Prosperity here in the state of Missouri. Right-wingers against school choice. We've got just the weirdest phenomenon happening here in the state of Missouri, but Missouri has always been kind of a spy. Ever since the Civil War, Missouri's always been kind of like a bit dodgy, if you will, of how Republican or Democrat we really are. We like to think of ourselves as a red state, but we can't pass things like right to work laws or school choice because there's this kind of weird, well, I guess what they're calling them these days is kind of like the Westboro Baptist Church of anti-school choicers, right? They're kind of just like, we don't want no school choice. We don't want any government, and we don't want the government to mess with our government schools. You know what I mean? It's kind of like those boomers who are like, they want to, don't get your government hands off of my Medicare. You know what I'm saying? It's a government program, right? So anyway, Jeremy Cady's going to talk to us about this. We think that there might be a little bit of astroturfing going on here in the state of Missouri, essentially where we think that the anti-school choice people are potentially being paid. This is a conspiracy theory right now. We don't know this for sure. But the anti-school choice left liberals are stirring up the crazies out in the woods here in Missouri and being like, oh, they're going to come. For example, there's this rumor that's flying around here in Missouri that if this school choice bill passes, then homeschoolers will be considered to be a school zone, which means it's a gun-free school zone, which means they're going to kick down your cabin door and take your guns. No! It's a lie. It's a lie. But they're stirring them up, telling them all these lies, so they will fight against school choice. People like ourselves who are trying to create better opportunities for young people and for parents. I think that the money should follow the parents. That's my opinion. Jeremy Cady happens to share it. I bring him on here today so I can hear him repeat my opinions back to me in my own voice. You know what I'm saying? And of course, we'll have a little discussion about whether or not taxation is theft, but that's going to be up to you. NPR firing back at that editor, that 25-year editor over at NPR last week. We talked about this story. And now the new CEO, the woke CEO over at NPR, is scolding him in public for outing the network's bias.
How dare you?
It's a delicious story. We'll talk about it a little bit later after Jeremy Cady. I've got a few other stories and, of course, the house cleaning stuff for today. Would you guys like to see the bonus content? You know that I'd be working hard for you, building you that bonus content. There were 2 days during our trip to Washington, D.C. Stephanie and I went to D.C. for the Cherry Blossom Festival and to see Thomas Jefferson's Monticello. And there were 2 days when we really only slept 3 hours each night. My friends were really shocked when we got in at 1 a.m. in the morning, and then we got up and were out the door before 6 a.m. because Monticello is not close to DC. I mean, relatively speaking, it's like 2.5 hours outside of DC, and you've got to take all these winding roads if you've never been to Monticello. But Stephanie and I managed to get back at around noon yesterday, took a short little nap, woke up, started getting ready, gangbusters, ready for the Wake Up America show this week. We've got your bonus content for you, hot and heavy. Hello, Clarice. You pay your taxes today. I ate Joe Biden's liver with some fava beans and a bottle of Chianti. Yes. If you'd like to see today's bonus content, then a little feeling weird from not much sleep. But if you'd like to see today's bonus content, then you know what to do. You've got to by the end of the show today, if we raise at least $50 in Rumble Rants, or if we make purchases over at apforlibertyshop.com. in the amount of at least $50, then, and everything stacks up, by the way, then you guys will be able to see the bonus content today, which I'm just going to, normally I like to tease out the theme, but today's bonus content, I'll just go ahead and tell you what it will be so that you can maybe be even more excited to see it. Today's answers the question, is taxation theft, and explains a little bit about the backstory of libertarianism, our views on taxation. It's a nice little mini documentary that goes through it, because a lot of times I get questions. People are like, well, Austin, you say taxation is theft, but yet you also believe in a limited government. How does one square these circles? Well, I don't get into it in this documentary today, as much as it is kind of a broad overview of the philosophical explanations as such. But I'll tell you this, I've always thought that the ideal way to pay for government, if we must have a government, is the lottery. That's a tax. It's a tax on people who are bad at math. And the lottery brings in tens to hundreds of billions of dollars. And they're like, but that isn't enough to pay for the government, they say. Somebody was asking me, or DMing me on Instagram last week asking about taxes. And I was like, you're right. It is not enough money from just the lottery alone to pay for the size of the government that we have. The point is that the government would be much smaller. Right? Right. And the leftists are like,
Oh, God!
and the statist
No,
authoritarian
God,
right-wingers are like, no, we can't have the government be any smaller. We need a government to force diversity, equity, and inclusion on the rest of us. We need a massive government to do the things that I want it to do, even though I don't like the things that the left makes it do, and the left doesn't like the things that the right makes the government do. And the real solution, of course, is that we should, of course, reduce the size of government. Quest Fanning saying share vacation pics. I will do that, but actually Stephanie's going to do that because she's putting together a lovely new hustling and homemaking video for you, and you guys will get to see some of the vacation videos and pictures that we took when we visited Monticello. So if you guys are interested in that, of course, make sure that you're keeping an eye out. Stephanie's video will be coming out a little bit later this week. Obviously, the 3-day vacation kind of crimped our plans to get it out by today. But you know what? Such as it is, everybody gets a little vacation every once in a while, don't we? Yes. Okay, I got a story I know it's going to trigger my friend. Look, it's Liz over there in the chat this morning. How you doing, Liz? Don't be mad at me when I talk about this next story. Don't be mad. It's just, don't shoot the messenger. Boomers bought up the big homes. Now they're not budging. Many empty nesters are staying put rather than downsizing, keeping housing inventory tight. Yes, baby boomers bought up many of the big homes across the United States when they were raising their families. Now they're staying put, even though their kids are all grown up, right? So boomers, they have got it all right now. They are on top in the housing market where there is not much inventory to be bought. The interest rates are sky high, and steep prices of the homes are making homeownership less affordable than it may have been in American history at many points. Many of these older homeowners have paid off their mortgages on properties that have appreciated enormously in value. Listen, I'm not criticizing the boomers just yet. I mean, listen, they're happy. They own the property. They bought it. Good for them. Some of them are very happy with their big houses. Others would like to downsize, but the high costs of buying another property are really putting a damper on their ability to downsize. So it's not just that some of them are like, we bought this huge house, we love it, we're staying put. Some of them would like to move out, but the situation is what it is, right? So about 28% of all U.S. homes with 3 or more bedrooms are owned by people who are between the ages of 60 and 78, who are either living by themselves or with another adult. So that's a lot of house for like a single or double person at like 60 to 78 years old, right? Millennials living with children own just 14% of these homes. So 28% of all homes with 3 or more bedrooms owned by boomers. 14% of millennials, people my generation who are having kids or who have had kids now that are like 10 years old, they are only 14% of the people who own the homes that need them. So again, I'm not blaming boomers. I'm just saying that this is the situation and it's not good for our country. It's something that we have to discuss. Now, just a decade earlier, empty nesters who were part of the silent generation, They were about 67 to 84 years old at the time, so 10 years ago. They owned 16% of homes with 3 or more bedrooms, but Generation X, when they were 32 to 47, they owned 19% of these homes. Boomers own half of all of the $32 trillion in home equity in the US. Half of all of the home equity. $32 trillion total home equity that there is out there, boomers own half, right? So, I mean, there's this massive, massive wealth transfer that has happened in the United States. And it's been the boomers voting themselves the wealth of younger generations. It's just the most damning thing, I think, that when you see these numbers and they refuse to move. Some of them can't move. I get it, not their fault, but it's like they're also not retiring. They're not leaving their jobs. I'm not saying you should be forced to retire, but we're in a situation where, people my age, they're going to call us millennials, they're going to call us the lost generation because we can't get into the homes we need to get into to be able to take care of our families. We also can't get that promotion to the job because our boomer boss isn't going anywhere. It's just a really wonky time in the markets right now. Now, I was watching a comedian that I like to, that makes me laugh over the weekend. His name's Tim Dillon. And he said some offensive things about it. So I'm going to let him say it so that I don't have to. Here's what he says about how baby boomers ruined America.
These guys that are so conservative now were the Woodstock guys. How did that happen? What changed?
Well, they were never liberal. And they're
just pause for a moment. An FYI, there might be some bad words dropped in this one. And there it is. So there you go.
Barely conservative now. They actually chase their own self-interest like a dog chases a steak.
For example.
They're all anti-global warming, but all of them want to live on the water. They all want to live on the water. They all want to have a boat. They all, for the most part, think global warming is full of shit.
Yeah.
Because, you know what I mean? But they all want in the nature to be exactly what it is for them.
Yeah.
Everything is for them. They are against the migrant crisis, but they adore housekeepers, nannies, and a lot of the things that come with it, right?
Yeah, that's right. So really good point here. So Tim Dillon's saying is that all these boomers who are, global warming freaks, oh, we got to protect the planet. We got to, we're going to vote for green energy, right? This is the wealth transfer that we're talking about here. When you were thinking a minute earlier, well, Austin, what are you talking about? The boomers voted away the wealth of the young people. We paid thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, Stephanie and I, to the IRS. We're getting ready to have our first baby, and we just got robbed by the IRS this month. I mean, this last week for us was, thank God we had the vacation, because otherwise we probably would have been much more upset than we are. We'll upset again, but I mean, the wealth transfer that the boomers voted for is all these green energy crap, all this cylinder crap, the investment, that Obama put into place, all of this green energy crap, these subsidies. They believe in global warming, so they vote for these things. But then, of course, they want to live on the water and they want to own a boat, and they don't want to do anything to actually pare back their consumption, but they want to vote to force my generation and the younger generation to subsidize their lifestyles, so that we could be forced to buy and use electric vehicles that don't work after 30 miles and they run out, and you can't really use them for the purpose that you're supposed to be using them for anyways. But Tim Dillon makes some good points here.
They think Biden's too old, but they're 75 and they're not retiring.
Exactly. They think Biden's too old, but they're 75 and they're not retiring.
And they're not selling their house. And they won't sell their house, and they're retiring to a larger house.
Yeah.
But they also will scream and yell about Joe Biden being too old. But are they going to pass the business down to their son?
Nope.
Or are they going to put the house on the market? Or are they going to, no.
Are we different? And if so, how did we get
The
different?
millennials suck for a whole host of other reasons. They're a ribbon.
Are we millennials?
Kinda.
I think we are.
Millennials suck
Barely.
for a different generation because they were raised by these kind of boomer parents that were kind of Looney Tunes. The millennials got instilled in their heads that they wanted to be constantly recognized for something because their parents were so hostile towards them. The millennials went to universities in corporate America and said, please pin a ribbon on me, tell me I'm good. Look, I voted. Look, I believe in this and that and this cause. And I'm
Pats on the back.
gonna pats on the back constantly.
Interesting.
I'm good. Love me, love
That's
me, love me.
true. We are the participation trophy generation, the millennials. Right? We are constantly seeking validation. We're constantly worried about what other people think about us because our parents never really loved most of us.
Me, society, my parents hate me. Will you love me? And they became annoying. They became helicopter parents. They're the ones that are over-parenting their children to compensate. They're the annoying people that are like, what's the new thing?
Dude, the pendulum
Ukraine,
swing.
this
Yeah.
flag, sub that flag. Now it's that flag. Now
Exactly. Yeah, we're the we the millennials. I'm a geriatric millennial, but we the millennials are the ones who change our profile picture for whatever cause it is. Right? Black Lives Matter. We make it a black picture or what have you. Ukraine flag.
this,
Right?
and all of it is because they just want to be. They
Adulation.
right? Cousins and people like that. All they wanted was to get into a good school to hold it over people's heads. You know what I mean? They didn't care about knowledge. They don't care about some of the dumbest people I know are the most well-traveled because they learn nothing by traveling.
Yeah.
It's just an Instagram photo. They don't
Yes.
care. It's what I respect about you. You learned stuff, and I'll talk to you.
No, it's very true. I've been having these conversations with my friend Oliver Gia in Japan about the problems that they have with tourists right now. They have to ban tourists from certain districts in Kyoto. He's writing a piece about that in The Spectator, which you'll definitely want to check out. But that is definitely a problem with the millennial generation. They do all of this travel. They go overseas to get the Instagram photo, and they don't go somewhere to actually learn. Right? We were, at Monticello last week, Stephanie and I, and there were people who were obviously just there to get the photo for the gram. Now there were plenty of people who were there to learn. Monticello is typically, it's a little bit different from, say, Mount Vernon, George Washington's home, which is near DC. You don't have to make a trek to get there. Monticello, because it really is a place of learning. And because it's so difficult to get there, I think that you don't get that same crowd at Thomas Jefferson's house that you do at George Washington's house. And Thomas Jefferson and George Washington, because they were so different, they attract a different type of a crowd. And so you are going to get more of the intellectual type people who are going to be attracted to Monticello and willing to drive 2.5 hours out into the woods to visit Thomas Jefferson's house. What was fascinating, the experience for me was the second time that I had been there, was to see Stephanie's reaction to it, because Thomas Jefferson has always been kind of her second love, or her boyfriend. She's always loved Thomas Jefferson, but seeing Stephanie's reaction to the things that she learned at Thomas Jefferson's house was surprising to me, and a little sad. I'll be honest. I was a little sad, not because I wasn't disappointed in Stephanie at all, but Stephanie was disappointed in Thomas Jefferson. It's kind of the situation where you say, don't meet your heroes, because if you meet your heroes, you're going to be disappointed. And when you learn some of the things about the personal side of Thomas Jefferson that you don't get in your school books, that they don't teach you in middle school or high school history or even college history, um, it does paint them in a different light. And people get very defensive of Thomas Jefferson. I certainly do. I get very defensive of Thomas Jefferson because he's always been one of my greatest intellectual inspirations. But when you see the personal side of Thomas Jefferson, there's some, I mean, we sort of deify the founding fathers, and then you realize that they were humans and that they did some good things. The founding fathers did some good, but they also did some evil. Some of them actually did some great evils, including Thomas Jefferson. And those are the things that I think my wife will explore in one of her upcoming videos for Hustling and Homemaking, her disappointment in that. And this is a conversation I've had with her before, because I've met all of my heroes for the most part, other than, you might say Elon Musk and Javier Milei. I haven't met those two gentlemen yet. So those are kind of my newer, more modern heroes. But I've met almost all my heroes in my life because I sought them out, sought relationships with them, and have interacted with them at different levels in different ways. And I will say that it absolutely is It's disheartening, right, when you see this because and maybe it's just your own naivete, right, that you think of them in this sort of deified way, that you look at your heroes and you say, well, they're perfect, they're flawless, so maybe the way that they've been presented to you has been deceitful in a way, or maybe you just chose to ignore those darker sides of the people that you lionize or you look up to. But if anything, it helps confirms my biases in a way that, too much power concentrated in too few hands is a dangerous recipe. We need to have disparate power. Power needs to be broken up amongst individuals because power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And when someone has absolute power over someone's life, in the similar way to how Jefferson literally owned people as property, that is a corruption, and that corruption breeds more corruption. Power corrupts. Absolute power over another human corrupts absolutely. We're going to talk a little bit in about 5 or 6 minutes to Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer about the escalating tensions in the Middle East. We're going to hear from him, his views, a former spy, to talk about what he thinks is coming next in the escalating conflict between Iran and Israel on the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. Welcome back, guys.
Expanse of time, a year might seem like a mere moment, but oh, what a year it's been. In September 2022, Austin and Stephanie Peterson embarked on a journey to wake up America. They began humbly, with just 20 souls tuning in, learning, listening, and though challenges arose, like the looming shadow of YouTube demonetization, their spirit never waned. And now, thanks to you, thousands rise with the sun to join them, to listen, to engage, to be a part of a community. So here's to you, and to Wake Up America, for memories shared, for friends made, for the journey ahead, and for never, ever forgetting to rise and freedom. Happy anniversary.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Is the outdoor of your home about as exciting as a library? Then spice it up and unbore your space with our custom metal signs. Crafted with love and a bit of libertarian magic, you can customize your own metal sign at ap4libertyshop.com. So head to ap4libertyshop.com, customize your own metal sign today.
Welcome to a world of vocal discovery at Peterson Voice Studio. I'm Justin Peterson, here to guide your musical journey. Envision a place where your voice reaches new heights, where every note tells a story. We embrace all singers, from the enthusiastic shower vocalists to aspiring stars, ensuring each voice finds its unique rhythm and tone. Are you ready to elevate your voice? Visit petersonvoicestudio.com and sign up for remote lessons tailored just for you. Let's begin this melodious journey together.
Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP4 Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your founding flavors at apforlibertyshop.com.
More pressing situations this morning after the attack from Iran into Israel. Your reaction?
You know, I think we're very fortunate that it was ineffective and that Israel's and U.S. defenses were able to stop 97% of this. But I think one question that's not being asked enough this morning is everybody's asking, what is the next step to escalation? There's another question. What are the possibility that we could de-escalate the situation? You know, every action has a reaction. Hamas attacked on October 7th, awful, dreadful. Israel kills 2 generals. Now Iran attacks. So every action has a reaction. And is there a possibility that this could be de-escalated at this point? And I think people ought to take a breath, wait a little bit. In medicine, we're taught to check your own pulse before you check the patient's pulse. You need to calm down and think with a clear head before we move forward.
There you go. Take a breath. That's Senator Rand Paul talking about the conflict. Good morning. Rise in freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. We're glad and thankful to have you here. If you haven't yet, please do click that like button and follow us over at rumble.com. If it's your first time watching us live here, we'd be glad to have you come back and join us every Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. That is the show's schedule. You can have your voice heard on the show today if you want to send us a text at 573-319-1586. Again, that's 573-319-1586. Also, don't forget, send in those Rumble rants. Make qualifying purchases at apforlibertyshop.com if you'd like to unlock today's bonus content. All right, let's get into it. The U.S. military said on Monday, Central Command forces, supported by U.S. European command destroyers, intercepted more than 80 attack drones and at least 6 ballistic missiles fired from Iran and Yemen at Israel on Saturday night. That represents about half of the 170 drones the IDF said were launched at Israel, along with 30 cruise missiles and 110 ballistic missiles. None of the UAVs penetrated Israeli airspace, while several ballistic missiles did, causing minor damage to the Nevatim air base. A 7-year-old Bedouin girl was seriously wounded from shrapnel that was caused by a missile interception near Arad. In addition to the Americans, the British, the Jordanians, French, and Saudis helped to fend off this attack. According to CENTCOM, one of the ballistic missiles was still on the launcher vehicle, and 7 UAVs were on the ground before launch. Hold on just one second. According to CENTCOM, one of the ballistic missiles was still on the launcher vehicle, and 7 UAVs were on the ground before launch when they were struck in Houthi-controlled territory in Yemen. We are tracking this story, and we're going to have Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer here joining us in just a moment. He is logging on now. There is one question that should be taken into consideration after Iran's drone and missile attack against Israel this weekend, and that is, what's next? What is the possibility that we could de-escalate this situation, right? Are enough people asking that question? Well, Senator Rand Paul is, and we're glad to see that he's out there fighting to try and prevent a wider war from spreading in the Middle East. Paul emphasized in his interview that we played a clip for you here in just a moment ago, that every action has a reaction. He hearkened back to Iran-backed Hamas launching an attack on Israel in October. That attack killed 1,200 people. Israel allegedly killed Iranian generals with a strike in Syria. Paul is saying that I think we ought to take a breath, wait a little bit. In medicine, we're taught to check our own pulse before you check the patient's pulse. You need to calm down and think with a clear head before we move forward. Let's give it up for Senator Rand Paul. Perhaps more interesting might be how the Biden administration is handling these things. The flip-flopping and back and forth has been a bit concerning.
You know, the conversations about unfreezing assets, about waivers on sanctions.
Yeah.
Could this administration have been tougher on Iran? Did it sense an opening?
It's hard to look at what President Biden has done with respect to Iran and say that he hasn't been tough on Iran, that we haven't put pressure on them, that we haven't additional 500 sanctions, additional resources in the region. And let's take a look at that ballistic missile. Okay, so they launched more than 100 ballistic missiles. And how many got through? And the reason it didn't get through is because President Biden made sure that we pre-positioned forces in the region to help.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure I'm buying what they're selling. The Biden administration supporting Israel. It's just been a little back and forth. Let's talk to an expert on geopolitics, Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer. We're glad to have him joining us live right now. Good morning, Tony. Thank you for joining us.
Austin, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So what's your take on how the Biden administration has been handling the Israel-Iran conflict, and, with the side conflict happening in Gaza?
Well, let me just start with a contradiction that's obvious. So we want to kill Russians and we want to continue to support Ukraine indefinitely, and yet we have an ally that's hit, and we want to hold them back and stop the war. I mean, it's kind of like there's a complete an obvious inconsistency within the context of what they're trying to accomplish. In one case, we're literally ready to sell Tony Blinken's grandmother to white slavers so that we can give more money to Ukraine. But the Israelis, you need to take the hit and don't fight back. So people need to understand that there's something going on. I don't even know if I fully understand, because to summarize the Biden policy, it's wackadoodle. It really, it's just, and I think if you can't figure it out through logic and the application of common sense and what I think we would look at historically, what the United States has done, if you can't put it in context, there's something else going on. And I don't know what that something else is yet, but I think it has something to do with the Democrat Party. I think so much of what they're doing right now has to do with trying to attenuate and shape foreign policy based on what the Jake Sullivan, who is fundamentally a politician first, a campaign manager second, a national security guy somewhere like 10th down the line of things. He's the guy, he's the brainstem, he's the guy trying to essentially, through his access to the entire spectrum of U.S. National policy power. It's not just policy, Austin, it's power. What can you do with it? You can have a policy to say, everybody in Minot, North Dakota needs to be green. It's like, okay, you can have that policy, but to have the enforcement mechanism to go with it. So Jake Sullivan's that guy. And Jake Sullivan has been completely focused on how to use American foreign policy to apply it to trying to move poll numbers for Biden domestically. So I think that's what's going on here. And that's why you see so much chaos.
The Democrats are all over the place. Chuck Schumer doesn't vote for the Chuck Schumer, votes against support for Israel. Now he comes out, says he's completely behind them. It's almost as if the kind of the Ilhan Omar caucus of the Democratic Party seems to be pulling the strings, despite how little influence they actually have nationally.
Yeah, right. The Hamas caucus is what I call it. I think other people have been saying something similar. Yes, of course. So think about this, Austin. You and I have been friends a long time, and I think I lean heavily libertarian, as you know, and I believe let the world be the world. Let go off and let the world be we have chosen to involve ourselves. We've chosen to import problems like Omar to our country. It's like we want to be welcoming. I think everybody wants to bring people in from diverse backgrounds, but by the way, the moment you propose to kill someone else because they don't believe like you, that's not really an American value. And the Democrats have picked up and are saying, violence is just fine as long as it's done for our constituency. Think about that. And I'm tired of it. And I'm against the continued funding of the war in Ukraine. I'm against extended support to nations in the Middle East, which will go about trying to kill people for no reason. So I think it's time now that we take a step back and reassess what we're trying to achieve. I'm a Reagan guy. I think that Reagan was very clear on trying to stop a nuclear war. By the way, Austin, you probably know this as well as I do. He saw the movie the day after, and back in '83, it frightened him to death, the idea of a nuclear war. So he set up mechanisms and policies to end the Cold War. Imagine that, having a clear and defined set of in-state objectives. We win, they lose, and you move forward with that. We don't have that. We don't have that now in our foreign policy. We have knuckleheads who are academics, mostly focused on domestic politics, who have no understanding of history, of tradition, of culture, and most importantly, not have no idea how to deal with people on a realistic basis.
I think I saw numbers that showed that recruitment was down across the board by 20%. The military is not able
Yep.
to achieve its targets. So the
Right.
idea that we would be embroiled in a wider regional conflict between Israel and Iran is quite frightening because Tony, it's not like we're fighting the Taliban or terrorists in Afghanistan or Iraq. Iran has a much more capable military. It's much more difficult terrain in many ways. I mean, war game this scenario, if Israel and Iran go to war, they're probably going to drag the United States into it. And we're not ready for this conflict, are we?
No, we've been going back to the Ukraine war, Austin. We've been demilitarized. Putin, for better or for worse, I'm not saying this because I'm pro Putin. Let me, because I always have to say this, like just because I'm saying something that factually is says that Russia's doing well, I'm not pro Putin. Just saying, it's like my caveat. But Putin has demilitarized Ukraine. He's demilitarized NATO. He's demilitarizing us because he's engaged in an effective war of attrition. So to your point, because of what we chose to do regarding Ukraine, jumping into a civil war and saying, "Oh, we're all into this," we have basically moved most of what we would need militarily, everything from 105 to 155 artillery rounds, sophisticated anti-missile, anti-aircraft defenses, logistics that would have to go into moving people, Austin. I mean, we don't travel light as a military. We go somewhere, we bring half of the state of Montana with us. Just saying. I mean, everything goes with us. All these things are degraded. And then you mentioned recruitment. I'm sorry, the DEI, be all that you can be after we cut you up policy ain't bringing people in. And I'm not joking about that. I know people who actually are involved in military medicine who actually have told me about how they are using transgender, an offer for you to become a boy. If you want to be a boy and you're a girl and you're a girl, you want to be a boy, come on in the military. We'll cut you up and put you in uniform and make you undeployable by the once they do that, you can't be deployed. So it's essentially uh, a civil service for the gay and lesbian community. Just saying, because it doesn't benefit the military. So I wish I was joking about this. I mean, but I'm not. But so those things, Austin, are going the opposite direction of attracting those people we would need to fill the ranks to be an effective military, and it's very dangerous.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm Austin Peterson. I'm speaking to Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer about the conflict in the Middle East and American military readiness after Israel and the United States fended off a drone and missile swarm attack over the weekend. So, what's next, Tony? I mean, some people think that Iran didn't want this attack to be successful. Do you buy into that? Do you think that, the mullahs are just trying to look tough, but they don't really want a conflict with Israel and the United States? I mean, where do we go from here? What do you think is de-escalation possible?
So in the great words of Joe Biden, don't. Austin, don't ask me that question. Just don't. So the answer is, I gave you the answer. Like, nobody listens to Joe Biden. Nobody cares. So whatever Biden said, oh, we're going to go to the G7. Okay, have fun with that. I hope you have really good cocktails and parties after the meeting, because nobody's going to care. That's where we're at. We have lost all ability. This is like that. To do a metaphor, this is like that last 30 seconds before the Titanic hits the iceberg. It's like they're trying to turn it. It's like there's no turning it. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. irregardless of what the United States does. The United States at this point is the Titanic heading for the iceberg, as far as I'm concerned. And it's just a matter of seconds before that slashes in, because at this point we are a tourist in our own foreign policy. We are, because we can't, anything that's said will not be taken seriously. Militarily, we're not capable of launching but a few things. I mean, come on. Austin, the Houthi, are you kidding me? A bunch of guys in the back of Toyota 4x4s with AK-47s are kicking our ass in the Red Sea. I mean, okay. So I'm just saying that we don't have control. So I think others do have control. The Israelis are dominating the battle space for whatever reason. I think the Iranians threw the punch, but did not want it to hit that hard. I think they wanted to make a statement of that we can do this if we have to. But there are some things we learned. They threw a lot of drones, something like 50 tons total weight of the drones. They fired hundreds of missiles. Some of those were sophisticated ballistic missiles. So I think we need to take and pay attention to what happened. But no, the intention was not to kill anybody. And I think that's what happened. I said on Newsmax, I was asked the question, do you think the Iron Dome will prevent major loss of life? Yeah, it did. But in the process of doing that, Austin, the Israelis spent $1 billion with the B dollars. All that was probably the most expensive fireworks show in the history of the world. $1 billion. Think about all that. So.
What would Trump do? Yes, WWTD is my question here. I mean, if Trump comes in this fall and takes back over, does he get a handle on this foreign policy? I just feel it, his while he is very bellicose in his rhetoric, he's very dovish in his actual policies. What happens if Trump takes back over? Does he take the reins?
Full disclosure, look, I'm one of the former advisors. I was the national security advisor to Trump 2020, and I've advised chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff under Trump. And so I can tell you that I don't think we would have gone this far down the road. We would not be at this level of chaos. Trump is a master of two things, Austin. He understands what we would call in the military centers of gravity. It's like you have a cascading effect of actions. One guy up here makes a decision and all these other things happen. So what Joe Biden's been doing is he's affecting all these things downstream from the decision. Trump will go after the guy that makes the decision and make him pay a penalty. It's like, dude, I don't appreciate all these other things that came out of your decision. I'm coming after you. And so I think Trump would be very much able to assess quickly who's causing this and why are they doing it. Now, he'll have some options on how to deal with it. If the guy, if he can negotiate it, he'll negotiate it. I think he always wants to find a way to off-ramp it because he's focused on economic success and prosperity. So if the guy doesn't want to negotiate, I think he'll take some very dramatic action. That dramatic action, like Soleimani, was like, dude, we're just going to have to kill you. And I'm being blunt about it. So that's the first thing. He's going to be very clear about hitting centers of gravity. And then that will stop downstream effects of bad things happening. Secondly, Trump will reintroduce what I call a level of unpredictability. One of the things notable about the Biden administration and why Trump got impeached, Austin, if you think about it, he wouldn't go along with the permanent bureaucracy, aka the deep state. He just won't. So when you see the Vindman's, he was destroying our foreign policy. No, he's the guy that runs the foreign policy. This whole cottage industry of bureaucrats, which has come up under multiple administrations, both Democrat and Republican, don't like being told what to do or deviating from what they want to do. So Trump just said, it's not working. We're not going to go in that direction. Austin, like now, you see people like Tony Blinken, Lloyd Austin, and others who will sooner, like John Kirby. I don't know if you saw John Kirby over the weekend and all the shows, like, well, is this an escalation? Well, I can tell you that we defended the Israelis. They are so bent on belief that they are right, no matter what the facts say. They continue this leviathan of policy continues to go forward. Trump's not going to do it. He's not going to go along for the ride, and they know it, and that's why they hate him. So those are the two things that will differentiate him from sleepy Joe Biden.
All right, Tony, last questions before we let you go here. Real briefly, did you see the movie Civil War that came out over the last weekend?
I did not. No,
Have
I
you
did not.
have you
I
heard
saw I
about it?
saw the flyer for it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So civil war in the United States, fighting against the U.S. government. Joe Biden says you can't take on the federal government because
Yeah.
we've got F-16s and tanks and nukes, which means he's threatening to nuke his
Oh,
own people in some ways. But
yeah.
with what you described with American military readiness at these times, and when you see like the Taliban with technical trucks, Toyotas with 50 cows mounted on the back, taking on the most powerful U.S. military. Do you think we could take him, Tony? Would this? Do you think we could if there were just
Why,
in Minecraft? In Minecraft,
Austin? Why do you think the left is so freaked out by Revolutionary War memorabilia and flags?
it
Because
triggers them.
George Washington took on the most powerful military of his time, right, with a ragtag group of folks, and won. So during his time, during Washington's time, with prayer, a little bit of luck, and a lot of gumption, they took on and beat the greatest military on the planet. So I'm just saying, I'm not saying that's why people, use that symbology, but the returning to the principles of the founding fathers, the idea of free people being free and having a choice in their government is not a bad thing. So again, that's why the Second Amendment exists. The moment you have a government that no longer responds to the people, that is the last option. Just saying. So I
Wow.
have not seen the movie, although I think we're going to think through it think tank wise. We started thinking about this a few weeks ago in Project Sentinel. How we're going to look at this. So,
Well, Tony, well, that sounds interesting. We'll definitely want to hear from you on that one. Tony, is there anything else
sure.
that you'd like to share with us or plug before we let you go today?
No, Project Sentinel. Project Sentinel is our follow-on to the London Center for Policy Research, projectsentinel.com.net. We'll be focusing on what we've talked about. Like, let's get back to the basics. How would the founding fathers wanted to manage and implement national security, foreign policy, domestic policy, all these things, and how do we return to those principles and be true to the people who set up this amazing republic we live in? So that's what we're going to be doing. So,
Tony Schaefer, Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer, joining us here this morning. Thank you for your time today, for being so generous
thanks,
with it. We
Austin.
appreciate it. You're a great American. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you. What'd you guys think of Tony Schaefer? You can send us a text at 573-319-1586. Urs Mommy's weighing in in the chat to talk about her thoughts on that question about whether or not Americans could ever be as revolutionary as their forefathers. She says that those were different people during the revolutions. We now have way too many crybabies in this nation. She says someone will get misgendered and cry like a bitch. Good morning, Rise and Freedom. Glad to have you here on the Wake Up America show. We appreciate all of our listeners. One listener texted in and said that, I'm sorry, the Houthis are the de facto government of Yemen. They haven't been pickup truck rebels for nearly a decade. One listener texted in, Wood Hippie says the Biden way is chaos. Fund your enemy, then fight them indefinitely. It's true, Wood Hippie, and we're glad to have you here. Thanks for listening in. You can text the show too at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. All right, well, in just a few minutes, we're going to have Jeremy Cady from Americans for Prosperity joining us. I'm looking forward to hearing more about what's happening here in Missouri on the question of school choice. Now, many states across the country have already passed school choice on the state level to allow money that's being paid by the taxpayers, moms and dads, into the system to follow their child to the school that they wish to take their child to. And of course, the Randy Weingartens and the unions are totally opposed to this because they want to keep us all in our little tax-funded plantations, prevent us from making the decisions that we would like to make when it comes to our child's education. They think that they know better than us. Remember the guy who lost the governorship of Virginia over his comments leading to the election of Glenn Youngkin in Virginia? The former, I think his name was McAuliffe, Terry McAuliffe, who made that statement about how he doesn't think that the parents should play a role in their education, and then he lost the governorship because that's a big deal, because that is how the Democrats feel. That's when they're telling on themselves how they really feel about education. So we understand what it's like to be fighting against the left when it comes to education choices here in our country. But on the state level here in Missouri, we struggled to pass a bill that would allow us to have school choice. And so we need to talk about who's opposing it, this time not from the left. It seems like the problems that we have are coming from the right. Why is it we've got right-wingers in Missouri trying to stop us from implementing one of the most pro-freedom pieces of legislation that's being pushed in the United States today? Let's hear from Jeremy Katie on that when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here, and we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Hey there, it's your favorite Vice President Joe Biden. I wanted to talk to you today about the Wake Up America Show, the best source for all your political news and commentary. But before I get started, let me just make sure I have all my notes in order. Okay, where was I? All right, the Wake Up America Show. It's a great way to stay informed and make your voice heard. Boy, what was I saying again? Oh, right. The Wake Up America Show. It's important that we all stay engaged and knowledgeable about what's going on in our country and, the thing. But hold on, where was I going with all this? Oh, yeah. The Wake Up America Show. It's a fantastic resource. And if you really want to make a difference, man, you can sign up to be a monthly donor at wakeupAmericaShow.com/support. Now, where was I? Oh, that's right, the Wake Up America Show. So if you want to stay woke and support a great cause, head on over to wakeupAmericaShow.com/support and sign up to be a monthly donor today. And if you're feeling generous, you can even give a donation in my name. Thanks for listening, and keep on keeping on, America. Come on, man.
Good morning. Rise in freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Glad and thankful to have you here. Do us a favor, click that like button. We'd love it if you'd come back here and join us on the regs. So every Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time is the Wake Up America Show schedule. So when you click that follow button, you'll be able to find us easy tomorrow morning and get those alerts. You might be watching us over at rumble.com, x.com, Facebook.com, and about 1.5 billion other places. So wherever you're at, just make sure you click that like button, repost, retweet, and share the stream so other people can find out more about the ideas of economic freedom and personal liberty, which is what we're all about. My next guest is, too, Jeremy Katie from Americans for Prosperity, joining us live and in studio. How you doing?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you for having me today.
Glad to have you here, Jeremy. We've got a big issue here in the state of Missouri, education choice. We've struggled with passing it here in Missouri. And, a lot of the resistance historically has come from the left, the Randy Weingartens of the world, the teachers unions of the world. But here in Missouri, we're faced with I don't know, some kind of weird conspiracy scenes happening where it's these typical conservative voters, Republican voters, who are fighting us like hell to prevent school choice from being passed in Missouri. We're seeing gun control is going to go into their homes and different things like that. I heard them described as kind of like the Westboro Baptist Church of anti-school choicers, right? It just kind of weird. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But what's happening? Give us a rundown, just legislatively. Where are we at with school choice here in Missouri? Then we'll talk about the conspiracy fun stuff.
Okay, so the items that we're following right now, we've got open enrollment, which passed the House, it's in the Senate. That's something that we've been working on for a number of years, and we always kind of run into some barriers in the Senate on that one. And basically, all that does is says that if a public school allows it, basically it's voluntary for the public schools. But if a public school allows it, then if you're in another public school, you can take your child to the one that is open to new students. So basically, we're trying to remove the lines, the barriers, the zip codes, the boundaries of what public school you can attend. The big one, though, that's making a lot of news and headway right now is Senate Bill 727. It's sponsored by a great gentleman, Senator Andrew Koenig out of St. Louis County. Also, homeschool dad. I want to kind of lead off with that. He's a homeschool father. I'm a homeschool father. And so we have a very, very strong passion for education and ensuring that we have control over how we're educating our children and the type of education that they're getting, the principles that they're learning while we're educating them. What Senate Bill 727 does, though, and the items in it, so it's grown since it was originally filed in the Senate, but the two items that we're necessarily watching in that one is one, an expansion of most scholars, and then secondarily, an expansion of the charter school. Now, the charter school one, that's a much easier one. So right now, charter schools are allowed in the St. Louis area, Kansas City area, and Springfield. This would extend that to Boone County. Nice, sweet, and simple. Most scholars, and that's where a lot of kind of this discussion is focused around. Well, first, actually, I want to preface. Let's keep in mind most scholars has been in existence since 21, so that's whenever it first passed, and it hasn't impacted any homeschoolers whatsoever negatively. In fact, there's a few folks that homeschool that actually do use the program. But and it actually specifically mentions homeschoolers in the law currently as it stipulates today. So homeschoolers are of those groups of individuals that can use it. You can use it for homeschool, you can use it for private.
But I can't take the money and then force some homeschooler to educate my child, right?
Correct. No, you cannot.
But if that homeschooler wants to educate my child, then I could take the money that I'm spending that would ordinarily go to the public school and then use it to pay the homeschooler?
So with homeschooling, there are laws and rules and stipulations around who can educate the children. And generally speaking, yeah, that's why you see a bunch of parents educating their children. I don't know. I don't believe I can necessarily educate your children if you wanted me to.
I thought that homeschooling groups were a thing.
There are co-ops, and that's where parents get together to educate their children
So
together.
could you use it for a co-op?
Well, you could use it for, generally speaking, whenever you're working on something like that. Most of those don't have like an annual type of cost, like a tuition. So basically, what you're spending those funds on might be curriculum, the type of books that you're purchasing. It might be, you could use some technology, and so I think, for instance, if they need a laptop or something like that for their schooling, you could use that.
Okay.
Any type, different software.
Okay,
Stuff like that.
so public education, the quality of public education, I think people say has gone down, but it does vary between the states, and the states kind of compete for quality of education. Now, a lot of people are opposing Missouri being able to make these kinds of changes to our education system, but how is Missouri doing compared to the rest of the country in regards to education? And if you're opposing school choice, let's take a listen.
We're actually falling behind.
A little bit?
A little bit behind.
Un poquito?
So Alabama was the most recent one that passed it this year, but we've got, we're behind states like Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, Tennessee, Arizona, Texas, a number of other states, Iowa, another big one, Arkansas. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, passed sweeping legislation last year. So we're falling behind. And the type of legislation reform that we're discussing in the state of Missouri is minimal compared to what other states are doing. For example, I mentioned the Most Scholars Program has been in existence since 2021. All this law, the law Senate Bill 727 does, is it says that currently there's a limit of the number of donations that can be used for scholarships of $50 million. It expands it to $75 million. And then currently there is a restriction of who can use the scholarships. So basically, right now you have to live, kind of in a larger city, maybe county. And this basically says if you qualify, meaning you're on free and reduced lunches, your child might have an IEP, independent education program. But if you have one of those, if you meet those requirements, you can use it regardless of where you're at in the state. And those are the two main changes that are actually being made. That's it. And so, there's also right now the treasurer has a rule that homeschoolers have to have a background check to participate. This law actually removes that stipulation, so we think it makes it better in that regard as well. So basically, it's just a small expansion.
Okay. Let's talk about the opposition to school choice here in the state of Missouri, because there have been rumors flying around, conspiracy theories flying around, and a lot of the opposition that I'm seeing to school choice in Missouri is not necessarily coming from the left. It's coming from people who are ostensibly right wingers. One of the concerns that they had, which initially came on my radar, was the question of gun control.
Mhm.
And I just have to admit, I didn't quite understand what the concern was. But what was the concern when it came to school choice, and if we applied this bill, how it might apply to guns? Can you talk to us a little bit about that controversy? It was a big deal here.
I can. So there is a law and a restriction of taking firearms to public schools. Right now, it's in law.
Right.
So and rightly so. And so there is a restriction on that. And so there's a big portion of the bill that says you can't take them on school property, school buses, so forth and so on. Now, the at question here is in this bill, it does mention that homeschools are schools, and so the question that came up was, well, does this make that firearm law applicable then to homeschoolers, and can homeschoolers then own a firearm? And the answer to that is yes, homeschoolers will still be able to own firearms.
Mhm.
The statute in question is already in law. Like homeschool is considered a school in law. Now it's not a public school. It's not a school district. And if you read the firearm law that has the restrictions into it, it doesn't necessarily define school, but every time it mentions school, it talks about school districts, school boards, school buses, transportation. So it's very easy to see that it's talking about public schools, government schools only. And so there's been a lot of controversy back and forth on it. There's been legal opinions back and forth. I know a local lawyer here that's well known in conservative circles, Mark Ellinger, wrote that he didn't think that it impacted at all. I know another Missouri lawyer, Dave Rowland, great guy as well. He actually didn't write in his write up of it. He didn't actually mention that he disliked the wording in Senate Bill 727. He just said that he has a lot of distrust in the courts and that they're willing to
Sure.
skew and stretch things.
It makes perfect sense, Jeremy, why anybody would be distrustful about the government's motives when it comes to gun control, and when they pass a school choice bill, if there's some language that people get confused about. It makes sense why people who aren't lawyers and who don't read bills who would be concerned about it. Listen, as pro Second Amendment as you and I may be, I still didn't see why people would be concerned about that. And I'm not a lawyer, but I was able to understand the concept of what they were saying. The concern was, if you were to go to a meeting of the people who were like raising the red flags about this one, would be, oh, wow, all of a sudden these anti-gun bills to say you can't have a firearm on campus would suddenly apply to homeschoolers. And if you told them that, without them actually reading it or having that legal understanding, they would freak out. Makes
And
sense.
rightly so.
But Jeremy, I suspicion, I don't know if you share my suspicion, that someone is stirring up these kinds of stories here in the state of Missouri to try and prevent us from passing these bills. It just seems as if we're always kind of seeing the same characters out there fighting us, not from the left on these issues, but from the right on these school choice issues. Let's go down the Prison Planet InfoWars rabbit trail here for just a moment, Jeremy. Do you suspicion that we've got an anti-school choice kind of guerrilla campaign being waged against us?
No, I think so. And and if you look at a lot of the messaging and a lot of tactics that they're using, and this has been seen in other states too. Anytime you're starting to make progress in expanding freedom and choice and opportunity, there's a number of groups, the NEA, Union, School Administrators, School Boards Association, so forth and
Well,
so
you are
on.
used to fighting the left.
But
These attacks are coming from the right, Jeremy.
but if you look at it, a lot of the tactics and messaging are very similar. And so it's one of those things where it's very likely that some of the support is coming from the left, but helping those on the right to kind of get it done. Some of the pushback is that we need to be fixing the public schools too, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. I would love to see DESE, a lot of their power and strength and authority reduced to absolutely nothing. I think I think most conservatives can agree that if you're going to have a public school, that it should be as independently run and as locally run as possible. But at the same time, though, to your point, it does seem to be consistently coming from a very small group of folks. They like to stir it up on social media, but generally speaking, they don't have a whole lot. I think, generally speaking, a whole lot of support behind them
Or influence,
or
actually.
influence. And we had an event even out in Chillicothe last Wednesday, and so there was a number of individuals there. I think probably half the crowd was probably homeschoolers, and a lot of them had some of those same fears that you had mentioned before, like, "Oh, are we not going to be able to have a firearm? Is DESE going to be
Sure.
controlling
And if
this?"
somebody had told you this, that you'd be concerned.
Absolutely, and it was one of those interesting things where as we went through and explained what the bill does, how it really operates and impacts. So, for instance, they're saying this is really stretching the authority of DESE. If you look at in the Most Scholars program, the addition of DESE in there, for example, the only addition that it has is that the treasurer now has to share the performance, so the testing, the test scores with DESE now. And so whenever it says that DESE needs to make rules, it's, the treasurer and DESE have to get together and make rules on how they're going to share that
For
information.
those who don't know, DESE, Department of Elementary and Secondary Education here in the state of Missouri, that's what he's referring to. You got to be careful of those acronyms.
No, I'm sorry about
Uh,
that. But the point is, DESE is not going to be choosing your curriculum. DESE is not going to be creating the rules around how you homeschool
For
or how you
homeschoolers,
or
right.
private school or anything like that.
But their concerns are valid, and
And I understand that.
and somebody's stirring them up,
They are.
then telling them these lies in order to prevent school choice from happening. It's probably George Soros under the covers. It looks like we've been featured on the front page of Rumble.com because I see the numbers are flying high. Nice to see everybody. Good morning. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'll go ahead and reset for you here so you guys know who we are and what we're talking about. It's probably your very first time here joining the show. And if you like the content, please do click like and follow the channel that you're watching live right now and come back and join us 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. That's the Wake Up America show. I'm the host, Austin Peterson. I'm joined on set and in studio by my buddy Jeremy Cady from Americans for Prosperity. We're talking a little bit about the resistance to public education reform here in the state of Missouri. The hope is that on behalf of people like Jeremy and myself and others, that we will see a bill that will pass here to offer school choice in the state of Missouri. Many states across the country have been dissatisfied with the quality of the public education system, and they'd like to see rising tides lift all boats. If we can pass education choice here in the state of Missouri, then we think we're going to get better outcomes. Not everybody agrees, but there's been a lot of dishonesty in the opposition to the school choice campaigns. We're debunking some of those things right now. If you have a question for Jeremy or myself, please text us 573-319-1586. Over in the Rumble chat, my buddy, Mr. Vanderfeltz, good morning, sir. He says, he has a question. He says, will this bill change anything for people that send their kids to a private school versus public school, or is it strictly a homeschool bill, Jeremy?
So the Most Scholars program does allow scholarships to be given out for private schools as well. And generally speaking, what occurs there, and part of the stipulations of the Most Scholars program is scholarship recipients have to take some sort of test, whether it's a MAP test. I think they can actually take a third-party test if they so decide. So they have to take some sort of performance review. And that's regardless of whether they homeschool, private school, or anything. Most scholars is not without strings. That is one of the strings. You will have to take some sort of testing. Generally speaking, we oppose testing. We would love to see that removed at some point in time. We would love to see standardized testing across the board removed, not even for public schools. We think parents are the best best indicator and can understand whether or not their child is learning, not necessarily testing. We don't think you should be teaching to the test. Every child learns differently. So that is one of the strings that is involved there is they will have to take a test. There is the requirement that whoever receives the scholarship is sharing with the nonprofit. So the way that most scholars works is a donor donates to a nonprofit. The nonprofit then divvies that up into scholarships to students. Those students could be currently homeschoolers or private schoolers. And then they award that scholarship. And part of the application process is just basically saying, hey, are you going to have curriculum? Are you going to actually be teaching? What are you going to be teaching it? It's not necessarily to force a private school or a homeschool family to choose a particular curriculum. They just want to make sure that you've got a plan. And so that is one of the other stipulations is that you say, hey, this is the curriculum that we use. For instance, my wife and I, we use a homeschool curriculum, but we also like to integrate the Hillsdale College classical education items that we have in there as well. And so as a homeschooler, we can pick and choose what we want to teach our children. And so we love that. Those are basically the main stipulations there. And yes, that is for homeschoolers and private schoolers alike. But generally speaking, otherwise the private school continues to teach as they did before. There's no other changes.
So where is Missouri at in the voting process for us to get this to the governor's desk? And if it does get to the governor's desk, do you think Parsons signs it?
I think there are a lot of items in there. Like I said, it doesn't make a whole lot of changes to like most scholars or even the charter school. So I don't think there's going to be any issues with there. It does make some changes to the funding formula. So that's going to be a big question. I don't know where the governor sits on that. So that's, I think, probably the biggest question there is that particular change. But as far as where it sits right now, it's passed the Senate. It's gone through the special committee on parents and education in the House. It's gone through the Rules Committee, and it currently sits on the third read calendar in the House. So the House could actually vote on it, pick it up today, vote on it, and put it on the governor's desk and make it law.
Jeremy, today is April 15th, tax day. And I know Americans for Prosperity tends to be a more liberty-leaning organization, so we share a lot of common ideals. My belief is, Jeremy, is that taxation is theft. Are you of the same opinion, Jeremy?
Yeah, I wish no, it was. I was actually going to DC to meet with one of our congressmen, and my little one, she was 6 at the time. She drew up a picture. She knew that I was going to Congress to DC, so she drew a photo for this particular congressman. And on one side of the picture, and she colored it, and so it was nice and detailed, was a picture of Leviathan. And then you turned over and she wrote the letter to the congressman on the backside. It said, please stop stealing our money.
You love to see it. Jeremy, Katie, from Americans for Prosperity here in the state of Missouri. Is there anything else that you think people should know? Anything you'd like to plug, perhaps, before we let you go today?
We have a lot of events. If you look at our Facebook page, AFP Missouri Education Events, coming up next week. So we've got a big one out in St. Charles on the 25th. I think Ozark on the 26th, and then Joplin and Springfield that following Saturday. So if you've got more questions, if there's something else that you need explained, you've got concerns, I appreciate that there are concerns. And most of the folk, and this is one of the things that I want to give to folks, is everyone that is showcasing and challenging this, I understand that they're passionate about their child's education. And that's important. And I love that. You absolutely should be vigilant and watching how these type of education bills are being created and what type of impact they can make. But we've got a number of events, not this week, but next week, starting on, again, I think it's Wednesday the 25th out in St. Charles, and then a bunch in Southwest Missouri. Would love to have you out there and join us. So just look at facebook.com, AFP Missouri, and you should be able to find us.
There you go, Jeremy, Katie. Let's give him a round of applause. All right, Jeremy. Well, if I had a producer or an assistant, they would walk you off the set right now, but we don't. So we can just say goodbye and have a wonderful day. See you later, Jeremy. Thanks so much for joining us. Let's give Jeremy, Katie a round of applause. We appreciate the good work that the people of Americans for Prosperity are trying to do here in the state of Missouri and around the country. Yes, it's tax day. Taxation is ultimately theft. But why is it theft? We'll see you later, Jeremy. Well, there's one way to find out. That's to unlock today's bonus content. We have raised $2 towards our $50 goal. Thank you to Mighty Megatron. For those who might not know, the Wake Up America show produces a mini documentary every day, typically based around a central theme for the week. And for this week, we're going to talk about the major themes of libertarianism to give people a little bit of better understanding of the ideals that we're fighting for here: economic freedom and personal liberty. Today being tax day, the question is taxation theft? I think many of you would probably say absolutely yes, but why? Why? And how can we justify, on one hand, saying if taxation is theft, what about the roads? The roads. How would we build the roads, AP for Liberty? Well, that's a great question. It's something that we can talk about. But if you'd like to learn a little bit more about the history, the background, and the understanding of these ideals and concepts, unlock today's mini documentary by making a donation, either as a Rumble rant. You can also do a YouTube super chat. You can also make a purchase at ap4libertyshop.com. I've been honestly kind of surprised at the reaction that Stephanie and I have gotten to the new collection of merchandise that she's created over at ap4libertyshop.com. Have you guys seen this beautiful stained glass collection that Stephanie made? Check this out. So the thing that kind of surprised me about it is that we launched this stained glass. It's called the Historic Spirits Challenge. Thank you to Robbie Thurman, by the way. We've raised $22. Somebody were to buy a shot glass, for example, over at ap4libertyshop.com, that would be enough. But the thing about the Historic Spirits collection is we started these as like a series of wine and whiskey glasses featuring our founding fathers with the stained glass sort of style. But one product more than others really stuck out, and that was this beautiful cutting board that Stephanie had made, which is of George Washington. And it's on a beautiful glass cutting board, stained glass George Washington cutting board. And the first few people who have bought this have started to get it in the mail, and they've been sending us pictures of their beautiful glass cutting boards. So this has kind of become the number one item for people who love this stained glass collection. A gorgeous picture of our first president, George Washington, on a glass cutting board in a stained glass design. And remember, when you see that price down there, that is with shipping included. So you don't have to worry that when you get to the cart, you're going to have to pay a whole bunch for shipping. So please do visit ap4libertyshop.com. Get yourself something from the Historic Spirits collection today at ap4libertyshop.com. That's ap4libertyshop.com. A far-left activist, Riddhi Patel, now facing 18 felony counts for allegedly threatening the Bakersfield City Council. We need more of this accountability, writes Jonathan Cho. The before and after is glorious. Take a look.
You guys want to criminalize us with metal detectors? We'll see you at your house. We'll murder you.
Dude, yes, there. Riddhi Patel, we'll see you at your house. We'll murder you. An anti-Israel protester wept as a judge arraigned her in California after she had allegedly threatened to murder public officials, allegedly, even though we got the video there, murder public officials at a city council meeting. Riddhi Patel, she sobbed as she pleaded not guilty. She's 28 years old. 18 felony counts after she directed comments to Bakersfield City Council members and Republican Mayor Karen Goh for not backing a Gaza ceasefire resolution against Israel and for installing metal detectors at City Hall. An anti-Israel protester, very upset because, the City Council of Bakersfield, they really need to take a stance on the Israel versus Gaza conflict. You know what I'm saying? That's really important. She messed around and she found out. Yes, Riddhi Patel is her name here. Threatening state officials, making terrorist threats. Let's see what else we got. Hold on now.
I remind you that these holidays that we practice, that other people in the global south practice, believe in violent revolution against their oppressors. And I hope one day somebody brings the guillotine and kills all of you motherfuckers. Regardless of whether you elect people into office, they'll backstab you, they'll let you die, and for that reason, you guys want to criminalize us with metal detectors? We'll see you at your house. We'll murder you.
He forgot to say in Minecraft. You see, that was the thing, was that if she had said in a video game after that, she would have been safe. But instead, she said, we're going to guillotine you, we're going to murder you, we're going to show up to your house. And that's what got her in trouble. She forgot to say in Minecraft.
Next speaker, please. Goodbye, Valeria.
You guys want to criminalize us with metal detectors? We'll see you at your house. We'll murder you.
A deputy public defender entered not guilty pleas on Patel's behalf to 8 counts of threatening a public official and 10 counts of making terroristic threats. She's due back in court later this month.
You guys want to criminalize us with metal detectors? We'll see you at your house. We'll murder you.
In Minecraft. In Minecraft. Good morning. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm Austin Peterson. We're glad and thankful to have you here. How's everybody feeling today? We're back. Yes, that was Ridhi Patel. She was ordered to be held on $1 million bail and stay at least 500 yards away from City Hall. She was, the person who was on the video making these comments. She claimed that she hoped oppressed minorities would guillotine city government members. In Minecraft. I would never say such a thing. I would only say such a thing in Minecraft. She declared that even Jesus Christ would kill them. And then she threatened to go to their houses and murder them. Who would Jesus Christ kill? Interesting. She accused the council members of not caring about the oppression of Palestinians. We're talking about the Bakersfield City Council here. She's not giving a speech before the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Right? She's not tweeting at Benjamin Netanyahu. She's yelling that they're going to kill. Jesus will kill you if the Bakersfield City Council does not vote again to protect the rights of people in Palestine. Joseph Biden laptop over in the Rumble chat says, I think people are too sensitive to this stuff. No one should go to jail for this. She absolutely should go to jail for this because she is my enemy, a leftist, Marxist, communist who made terroristic threats. Send her to jail. Patel later blasted the mayor and city council for installing extra security measures like metal detectors in the building, calling it an attempt to criminalize protesters. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's because people like you are threatening to murder the city council. I don't know. LOL, Jesus the gangsta. Signs of Jonah. Good morning, Signs of Jonah. Now, Patel was arrested, charged with 8 counts of threatening state officials and 10 counts of making threats with the intent to terrorize. Patel, she grew up in Bakersfield. She works as, guess what, an economic development coordinator for a local nonprofit. Of course she is. Of course. Economic development coordinator, which means how can we extract as much money from the white people in my neighborhood and redistribute it to all of the Pujits and Panjits and Ridhi Patels over in our communities. What do you think about Ridhi Patel? The things that she said. I mean, I've heard a lot of libertarians saying similar things about public officials, but I'm pretty sure libertarians are much more savvy these days because they have a little bit more wherewithal to say. I hope that somebody brings the guillotine around for all of you people in Minecraft.
You guys want to criminalize us with metal detectors? We'll see you at your house. We'll murder you.
Yeah, you're going to have a hard time getting tikka masala in jail, Ridhi.
I remind you that these holidays that we practice, that
There's no buttered chicken at the women's prison.
other people in the global south practice believe in violent revolution against their oppressors. And I hope one day somebody brings the guillotine and kills all of you motherfuckers. Regardless of what,
Do you think that they serve garlic naan in jail?
whether you elect people into office, they'll backstab you, they'll let you die. And for that reason, you guys want to criminalize us with metal detectors? We'll see you at your house. We'll murder you.
Next speaker, please.
Oh, Ridhi Patel.
Lance.
She's going on a diet.
Kev, followed by Valeria.
We'll see at your house. We'll murder you. Well, that might have been the giveaway there. Riddhi Patel, 18 felony counts for threatening the Bakersfield City Council. Another clip that's been making rounds over the weekends. Renato Money Moicano used his post-fight speech to shout out the First Amendment and Ludwig von Mises. Take a listen.
Let me tell you something. I am a huge advocate of the First Amendment. And let me tell you something. Today, of course I want the 300K bonus, but they're not gonna give me because somebody asked it, they say, hey, this is fucking Disney, you cannot curse. So, I'm not gonna do my speech, but first of all, I love America, I love the Constitution, I love the First Amendment, I want to carry and own fucking guns, I love it, property, and let me tell you something.
He loves America, he loves the Constitution, and he loves private property. Okay, I'm already like, this guy's awesome. God bless Renato Money Moicano shouting out the First Amendment, but then you think that it can't get any better? It gets better. Listen to this.
I love it, property, and let me tell you something. If you care about your fucking country, read Ludwig von Mises and the 6 lessons of the Austrian Economic School, motherfuckers.
Wait, what? Sorry for the language, but pause here just a moment here. Did this guy who sounds like he should be unloading trucks in Transylvania, did this guy just say, I love the Constitution, I love the First Amendment, I love private property. If you care about your effing country, read Ludwig von Mises and the 6 rules of the Austrian Economic School? What the hell? What planet is this guy on?
Ludwig von Mises and the 6 lessons of the Austrian Economic School, motherfuckers. Renato Moicano, ladies and gentlemen, killing it out.
What is this? I just think it's just absolutely beautiful. Good morning. Welcome to Wake Up America show. Austin Peterson here. Nice to see 973 people watching us live over at rumble.com. How you doing, Rumblers? Nice to see you. Apologize for the language. We usually try and keep things beeped and bleeped. And yes, we believe in the First Amendment, but I try and make the Wake Up America show as family friendly as I can. Sometimes it gets a little bit weird. I apologize. I try and let you know. But if you're enjoying the content this morning, please do us a favor and click that like button over on the stream. And while you're there, the follow button as well. That follow button is going to follow our channel so that tomorrow morning, if you'd like to listen to the show as well, you can tune in, find us, no problem. I'm AP for Liberty pretty much everywhere. But if you would like to find us again tomorrow morning, then please do click that follow button. We'd be very grateful for that. All right, I'm going to take a quick little 2-minute break. I just got to go use the restroom. Now's a good chance to go get yourself a cup of coffee, glass of orange juice. We'll be back in 2 minutes on the Wake Up. Don't go away. We got still more content to go. We're going to talk about that NPR editor who's now getting in trouble for saying what we all knew. It's all a bunch of Democrats on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. It was 1946. A battle was fought, not overseas, but right here on American soil. The Battle of Athens. An intense struggle against election fraud and for the rights promised by our founding fathers. Driven by the Second Amendment, ordinary citizens stood tall and fought back. Help us expose this momentous battle of integrity and bravery. Your support can make a difference. Visit givesendgo.com/bleedamerican and pledge your support, because we believe in the power of truth, the strength of unity, and the spirit of we the people. Let us not forget, we bleed American. Fire. I told you I'd be quick. Good morning. Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. Nice to see you guys over there. It looks like we've got over 1,100 people watching us live over at rumble.com. Nice to see you all. And about 230 watching us over on X as well. We're glad to have all of our supporters who are joining us there in that Rumble chat to help us to grow. People who are brand new here today for the very first time, do us a favor. Click that follow button. Actually, I won't call it a favor. Help us out. Click that follow button. Help us to grow the show. We're all about economic freedom and personal liberty here. We're all about loving America, private property, the Constitution, free speech, and, of course, we love Ludwig von Mises and the 6 principles of Austrian economics. I'll be glad to have you come back here and join us on the regs. You can text the show. Let us know what's on your mind at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Don't forget to pay your taxes today. I certainly did, and good. Now we're broke. You can help to fix that, though. If you want to unlock today's bonus content, we're $22 towards our $50 goal. If by the end of the show today at 9 a.m. Central Time, so about 30 minutes from now, if we've raised at least $50 in Rumble Rants or YouTube Super Chats, or you can go to apforlibertyshop.com and make a purchase there. If we raise at least $50, all of those things will combine, then we'll unlock today's bonus content, which is a little bit of background on the history of why taxation is theft. Nice, thorough explanation for those who might be curious. So get those rants in and head to apforlibertyshop.com and make a purchase today. And if you do, then you will unlock that bonus content. All right. Well, this is Catherine Marr. She's the new CEO of NPR. Kind of laughing here because obviously if you were wearing the mask, we didn't need to know that you were for Joe Biden for president. Well, she's in the news now because she's fighting back against one of her editors who's been working at the magazine for 28 years. Catherine Marr, she's responded, and she says that the ideas that were being pushed by this editor, saying that NPR has a left-wing bias, are hurtful ideas. Oh, they're terrible. They're very hurtful. She is the new CEO of taxpayer-funded NPR. And of course, people are going back through her tweets. She says, things like, sure, looting is counterproductive, but it's hard to be mad about protests not prioritizing the private property of a system of oppression founded on treating people's ancestors as private property. Oh, my God.
How dare you?
It's annoying. I'm laughing now because Fook over on the Rumble chat says she's hot, a hot mess. Very true. Another Catherine Marr tweet says, I do wish Hillary wouldn't use the language of boy and girl. It's erasing language for non-binary people.
How dare you?
No, God! No, God, please, no! No! No!
Yes. She says she's an unalloyed progressive and supporting Hillary this time around. Yes, everybody's going back through her tweets. Catherine Marr, she's the CEO of NPR. Just remember, the taxes that you're paying today do fund her salary.
How dare you?
It's just sad to see. Well, she's attacking the editor at her magazine and at her news outlet. What's his name? Yuri Berliner wrote a scathing op-ed. We talked about it a little bit last week on Barry Weiss's Free Press. Now, Yuri had claimed that NPR had displayed political bias on a number of occasions, and in doing so, and he's a left liberal, a progressive, he says that that NPR has lost America's trust. Now, Catherine Marr, the loony lefty who is running the thing, she stepped into her role as the head of NPR just 3 weeks ago. She claims that Berliner's assessment, and he's been there for 25 years. She's been there 3 weeks. She says that his assessment was deeply simplistic as well as profoundly disrespectful, hurtful, and demeaning. Now, she didn't mention Berliner by name because she's a coward, like many leftists. She didn't give any specifics with regards to his comments. She simply claimed that NPR was devoted to providing information to the public, and the outlet's, quote, service to this aspirational mission was called into question this week. Yeah, you think? Asking a question about whether we're living up to our mission should always be fair game. After all, journalism is nothing if not hard questions. Let me tell you something. I've been in journalism since 2008, and I promise you that journalism is very rarely about asking hard questions. Journalism, 80% of journalism, is about kissing ass to people in power to try and get close to them in the hopes that they might hire you to work for the government so that you can squash the people that you made enemies with in your entire life because you're a hateful leftist. Am I right? Am I right? That's what 80% of journalism is. 80% is journalists are people who want to get close to people who are in power to kiss their asses so that they can hopefully get a job in the government or have some favor with an administration. Well, anyways, Catherine Marr says that questioning whether our people are serving our mission with integrity based on little more than the recognition of their identity is profoundly disrespectful, hurtful, and demeaning. Wait a minute, back this up, rewind. She says, based on little more than recognition of their identity. Does being a Democrat, does that count as your identity? I guess it can, because the thing that was revealed in the original report by Yuri Berliner, the left progressive who called out NPR for their bias, the thing that was the big bombshell, not that it really should have been a bombshell, but it was original reporting, actual journalism, is that Yuri went to the voter registration office and found out the registered political party of all of the editors who worked at NPR's offices in Washington, D.C. Guess how many of them were Democrats? What do you think the ratio was of Republicans to Democrats? If you haven't heard this story yet, what do you think the ratio was of registered Democrat editors to Republican editors? Like 5-1, 2-1. No, it was 100% to 0%. Yes. It was 86 editors were registered as Democrats versus 0 editors of NPR who were registered as Republicans. So this Catherine Marr character says, questioning whether our people are serving our mission with integrity based on little more than the recognition of their identity is profoundly disrespectful, hurtful, and demeaning. Okay, well, if their identity is that they're registered Democrats and political Democrats, okay, fine. That can be a part of your identity. I certainly am, I'm not like my identity is not my political party, but being a libertarian, small L libertarian, not a political party member of Libertarian Party, I'm a registered Republican, but I consider myself that perhaps part of my identity. But again, I'm not on taxpayer dole. I'm not taking money from the public to spread these ideas. The Wake Up America show is entirely funded by people like yourself. Your Rumble rants, YouTube, Super Chats, purchases made at apforlibertyshop.com. I don't take taxpayer dollars to spread my propaganda. I don't go out and produce my mini documentaries for today that we haven't unlocked yet. And if we don't unlock it, it goes away forever. You don't want to see that happen.
God!
So get your Rumble rants in now.
No, God, please, no!
But I don't take your taxpayer dollars to force you to force people to be indoctrinated with the views of one political party, one identity. It's entirely monolithic. If there are 0 editors who come from not even like registered independents, every single editor, it was revealed, was a registered Democrat in the District of Columbia, not one single registered Republican, not a registered Libertarian, not a Green Party, nothing. It was in totality a leftist propaganda outlet. Now, this Catherine Marr chick, she went on to suggest that Berliner's assessment of bias had been based on his own objections to a diverse workplace. He is a left progressive. She's accusing him of not being inclusive enough when in reality, she's defending the lack of inclusiveness. See, Democrats only accuse other people of what they themselves are guilty of. Can I get an amen? Beers04 joining us live. Looks like for the very first time. Beers, nice to meet you, friend. He he or she says, okay, get religion out of politics, but me being a Democrat totally doesn't affect my ability to be reporting news without a slant. That's a nice little bit of satire there. I got it there. That was funny, Beers. We appreciate you. That's correct. They are not a private business, as I am, says Look, it's Liz. Thank you very much. And Mommy, she just dropped $10 in the tip jar today. Good morning. Thank you, We are now at, I believe, $22 towards our $50 goal. We hope to raise at least $50 by the end of the show. And if we do, we'll unlock today's bonus content. There we go. So Catherine Marr, the new CEO, she's been there 3 weeks, okay? And she's accusing Yuri Berliner, a left progressive who did real journalism, calling out NPR's bias. She is accusing him of not being inclusive, right? She suggested that his assessment of the bias at NPR was based on his own objections to a diverse workplace, so that he doesn't have he doesn't. Thank you, Robbie. I see you put us over the top there, brother. Appreciate you. Beer04 voted for me a while back. Oh, how are you? Beautiful, looking very nice today. Glad to have you here. Appreciate that. Hope that vote felt good. She says it's deeply simplistic to assert that the diversity of America can be reduced to any particular set of beliefs. Oh, please. And faulty reasoning to infer that identity is determinative of one's thoughts or political leanings. She is woke as F. Mar, she says, each of our colleagues are here because they are excellent, accomplished professionals and Democrats with an intense commitment to working for Democrats. We are stronger because of the work we do together for Democrats, and we owe each other utmost respect as long as we're Democrats. We fulfill our mission best when we look and sound like Democrats. The country that we serve, we want to destroy this country that we claim to be serving. You know what I'm saying? But NPR's CEO is just as insane as you would expect her to be. Here's some fun tweets from her past. I know that hysteric white woman voice, she says. I was taught to do it. I've done it. It's a disturbing recognition. While I don't ever recall using it to deliberately expose another person to immediately physical harm on my own cognizance, it's not impossible. That is whiteness. Whiteness is using your white woman voice sounding hysterical to be a Karen in the public park? If so, Catherine, then you might say that is whiteness, but what you're really saying is left liberal progressive female whiteness. So maybe, Catherine, if you have been using that hysteric white woman voice, perhaps you ought to shut up. Maybe you should shut your mouth a little bit more. Instead, you've decided to take over for the government's mouthpiece at National Public Radio. You've been there for all of 3 weeks. Let's get into some more juicy tweets. She says, lots of jokes. This is from 2020. She wrote this. Lots of jokes about leaving the U.S., and I get it. Please, Catherine. Please, baby girl. Get the out. Get out. Please get out. Anyways, sorry. Just relax, AP. Relax. She says, lots of jokes about leaving the U.S., and I get it. Do you? Do you get it? She says, but as someone with cis white mobility privilege, I'm thinking I'm staying and investing in ridding ourselves of this specter of tyranny.
How dare you?
The specter of tyranny. It's the specter of tyranny. Another tweet from NPR's new chief, Catherine Marr. She says, and I'm white, so my hair doesn't automatically carry with it the freight, F-R-E-I-G-H-T, the freight of my race, worth, and everyone else's encoded assumptions and biases. Hold on a second. English is my first language, but I'm trying to make sure I understand what she's saying here. She's white. Her hair doesn't automatically carry with it the freight of my race, worth, and everyone else's encoded assumptions and biases. What in the hell is she trying to say?
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to excuse me.
Yes. Yes. So, even by managerial class standards, this woman really, really hates white people. It's quite obvious. We all pay her salary. Catherine Marr. She is the new CEO of NPR News, and she's out there attacking her editor, Yuri Berliner, who is what honestly, I think the guy's a damn hero. Let's give it up for Yuri Berliner. Just tuning into the Wake Up America show for the very first time, we're glad to have you here. Welcome to all of our new guests today. It's nice to see over 1,200 people joining us live this morning on the Rumble chat. We're glad to have all of our friends there over at rumble.com. 1,274 is what I'm tracking or so right now. The Wake Up America show is a great way to start your day. Perhaps you found your new obsession. Come back and join us again tomorrow morning here. The Wake Up America show streams live. We've got a set schedule, and we like to run things on time. We're not like a regular streaming show. We're a cool mom streaming show, cool dad streaming show. I am going to be a father very soon. And my lovely, smoking hot, redheaded libertarian wife, Stephanie Peterson, typically joins us on Fridays. So make sure you come back and join us Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. If you're having a hard time finding us again tomorrow morning, you might want to follow us now so that you don't have to type in Wake Up America Show. Oh, I can't find it. Well, the easiest way to find us again is if you click that follow button over at the Rumble Rant channel. You just got to click the like and then the follow, and then you shouldn't have any problems finding us again tomorrow. All right. Well, you guys unlocked the bonus content, which means that I'm going to play it for you right now, and then I'll have a final word. Enjoy a brief mini documentary about the history of taxation. Is it theft or is it not? We'll talk about that for a minute before we go on Tax Day, April 15th on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
This week's Wake Up America Show bonus content. This week's theme, we look at some of the big picture concepts that make up modern libertarianism's strongest economic and moral arguments. Is taxation theft? The phrase, taxation is theft, is often echoed by libertarians, suggesting that the government should not be exempt from the moral standards applied to individuals. Consider a hypothetical scenario where an individual, in an effort to feed the poor, resorts to forcibly taking money from the well-off under the threat of violence, labeling it a charitable act. Despite the noble end, this act is universally recognized as theft due to the lack of consent from those who are robbed. Drawing parallels to taxation, the government demands money under the threat of force, leading some to argue that taxation equates to theft, regardless of the government's intentions or the eventual use of the funds. Critics of this view offer counter-arguments, one being the notion of a social contract, where citizens implicitly agree to taxation by utilizing government services and residing within the government's jurisdiction. However, the social contract's existence is questioned since it lacks a physical manifestation or explicit consent, and taxation is enforced irrespective of individual usage of government services or agreement to such a contract. Another argument posits that the government, by defining property rights, can decree what is and isn't personal property, thus negating the concept of theft regarding taxation. This view is challenged by pointing out the intrinsic nature of property rights, existing independently of governmental laws, illustrated through examples outside of any legal jurisdiction. A third perspective considers taxes as payment for services provided by the government, such as law and order, implying a transaction rather than theft. Yet this analogy falters when considering the lack of consent in transactions involving taxation, as consent is a key factor distinguishing legitimate exchanges from theft. The debate on whether taxation is theft raises questions about the justification of taxation itself. While some thefts may be deemed necessary or justifiable, such as stealing food for survival, the application of this rationale to taxation requires careful consideration of what constitutes a necessary cause. If taxation is theft, does it follow that we must abolish all taxation? Not necessarily. Some thefts might be justified. If you have to steal a loaf of bread to survive, then you are justified in doing so. Similarly, the government might be justified in taxing, if this is necessary to prevent some terrible outcome, such as a breakdown of social order. Why then does it matter whether taxation is theft? Because although theft can be justified, it is usually unjustified. It is wrong to steal without having a very good reason. What count as good enough reasons is beyond the scope of this short article. But as an example, you are not justified in stealing money, say, so that you can buy a nice painting for your wall. Similarly, if taxation is theft, then it would probably be wrong to tax people, say, to pay for an art museum. In other words, the taxation is theft. Thesis has the effect of raising the standards for justified use of taxes. When the government plans to spend money on something, support for the arts, a space program, a national retirement program, and so on, one should ask, would it be permissible to steal from people in order to run this sort of program? If not, then it is not permissible to tax people in order to run the program, since taxation is theft. This discourse invites a broader contemplation on the ethical foundations of taxation, urging a reassessment of when and how the government should exercise its power to tax, with the underlying principle being the avoidance of theft without compelling justification.
There you go. Big picture discussions about philosophy. Taxation, is it theft? Absolutely. Is it ever okay to steal? Well, if in doing so, it saves your life to take a piece of bread. Now, you might be required to pay it back. Absolutely. If you were going to die without stealing that piece of bread, it's all about raising the bar, the standards for what government can legitimately, quote unquote, tax for. If you can't steal from someone to pay for a piece of art, then you shouldn't be able to steal from someone to be able to pay for an art museum. Now, these sound like conflicting questions, but if you want deeper explanations for that, you're going to have to read books. 5-minute mini documentaries on the Wake Up America show are not going to do it. What I recommend to you is a book called Anarchy, State, and Utopia. Visit Amazon.com, grab yourself a copy of Anarchy, State, and Utopia by Robert Nozick, where he goes into much deeper, fleshed out explanations for these concepts. I just don't have time to get into them in a 2-hour podcast, but I'm glad to have you here. I appreciate Rumble.com for featuring us on the front page, introducing us to 1,400 people joining us live this morning. It's great to see you all. I hope I get to see you again. The only way that you can ensure that that happens, though, that we get to meet again tomorrow, Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow, is to click that follow button over on the feed. So before you leave today, click the like, click the follow, come back here and join us for the regular schedule, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. So if you're in a different time zone, just adjust for your local time zone and join us again tomorrow morning here on the show. Oh, and real quick, one last thing, please do visit ap4libertyshop.com. We call it the Grift Shop, because everybody's just being accused of being a grifter these days. But I think you'll absolutely love our delicious patriotic coffee company, Founding Flavors, as well as our amazing products, Don't Tread on Me, gadgets and shirts, Javier Milei merchandise that you won't be able to find anywhere else, because my wife and I make these products exclusively for you. So visit and exit through the Grift Shop, ap4libertyshop.com. That's AP, the number 4, ap4libertyshop.com. So just browse through the collections, and we'll see you guys here tomorrow on the show. Thanks for sticking around. Sorry about your taxes. I know, it's terrible. Not my fault. I tried to stop it. Ran for president. Tried to end it. But we'll see you guys here tomorrow on the show. Have a good one. Take care.
Expanse of time, a year might seem like a mere moment, but oh, what a year it's been. In September 2022, Austin and Stephanie Peterson embarked on a journey to wake up America. They began humbly, with just 20 souls tuning in, learning, listening, and though challenges arose, like the looming shadow of YouTube demonetization, their spirit never waned. And now, thanks to you, thousands rise with the sun to join them, to listen, to engage, to be a part of a community. So here's to you, and to wake up America, for memories shared, for friends made, for the journey ahead, and for never, ever forgetting to rise and freedom. Happy anniversary.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Is the outdoor of your home about as exciting as a library? Then spice it up and unbore your space with our custom metal signs. Crafted with love and a bit of libertarian magic, you can customize your own metal sign at ap4libertyshop.com. So head to ap4libertyshop.com, customize your own metal sign today.
Welcome to a world of vocal discovery at Peterson Voice Studio. I'm Justin Peterson, here to guide your musical journey. Envision a place where your voice reaches new heights, where every note tells a story. We embrace all singers, from the enthusiastic shower vocalists to aspiring stars, ensuring each voice finds its unique rhythm and tone. Are you ready to elevate your voice? Visit petersonvoicestudio.com and sign up for remote lessons tailored just for you. Let's begin this melodious journey together.
Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP4Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your founding flavors at ap4libertyshop.com.